Okay, so this video is going to cover kind of an intro to Revit and how to get started quickly. I'm going to create a new file. So when you open up Revit, this is the splash screen you get. I'm going to go to New. I'm going to go down to Imperial Architecture for this project. And so architecture is Revit Architecture is a BIM software for building information modeling. So when we model something, we draw it, it has information embedded in it. So when we draw something as a floor plan, it'll have information that's three-dimensional. So that's really its benefit over traditional CAD software like AutoCAD, is it has 3D information and it has model information embedded. So the basic interface, we start off in plan view. So this is a level 1 floor plan just by default. All of our drawings and schedules, legends, sheets, those are all going to show up here. This is our project browser. So this is the tree of information. These are all the different drawing types you'll see here. Properties are here. We can scroll and see that. So by default, this is going to show the properties of this view. When something is selected, it'll show the properties of that object. Revit uses tabs, so you'll see all the different tabs here. All the basic architecture tabs are shown here. So walls, doors, windows. If you want to model a custom component, you can do that here. You can place a preloaded component. Columns, roofs, ceilings, floors, those are all under this architecture tab. Stairs, identifying rooms, designating something as a room, that's all here. Laying out a grid, adding levels, which we would do in elevation. Again, we're in the floor plan now, so you'll see that when I model something, it'll show up in plan, but we can also quickly switch to other views and see that same thing from another view. The structure tab has structural engineering specific elements, structural floors, trusses, braces, beams, things like that. There's other tabs here that go into more specifics when it comes to MEP systems. Insert, this is where we bring in, if we have a CAD file that we're going to be modeling on top of, this is where we would bring it in. We can link a CAD file so that when we make changes in AutoCAD to that file, those changes, when saved, can be synchronized so that they show up and we'll see those changes update in our Revit file. We can link Revit, so we can have another Revit file that we link into this file, so those can be brought in. And then import CAD just kind of imports a static file that doesn't change when updates are made. Okay, so those can be brought in. We can import an image, so if we have an image of a site that we want to trace over kind of unaccurately to represent, we can do that. We can load a family here. So if we have a family of chairs that we want to bring in, or tables, furniture, those can all be loaded. Annotate, these are all the tools that we use for drafting and for annotating over our drawings. So we can dimension here, elevations, region, fill region. So if you want to have a hatch, detail lines, so lines that just show up in this one view can be drawn with detail lines. Model lines, on the other hand, those are drawn and they show up in other views, but a detail line is specific to this one view. Text, insulation, tags, so we can tag objects. So any annotations can be found here. view. So if we want to create a section, this is for generating new views, and for modifying them, those can all be done here. So visibility graphics, this is really the kind of style and how a drawing shows up can be found under visibility graphics. So we can change settings, like if we want a poche for a wall, if we want that poche to be dark gray instead of black, we can modify that in visibility graphics. And when you mouse over something, you'll see the shortcut, the keyboard shortcut for it right next to it. So in this case, VG is visibility graphics. So you can type that on the computer, on your keyboard, and it'll show up. Okay, so this is the visibility graphics. So it's broken up into different components here, and we can change the way they show up as a surface, and the way they show up when they're cut. And then we can easily check if we want them to be halftone, if we want them to show up with half the intensity. Those can be checked as well. And then, yeah, creating different views. So if you want a 3D view, we can go into that. We can create a new section, so this will cut through the project, and we can locate that. Call out can be drawn. Plan views, so there's other types of plan views. So area plans, if we want to have a designated plan that identifies the area of the area of the project, square footage, that can be calculated here. Drafting views, this is a kind of a dumb view that doesn't include 3D information. It's just kind of a two-dimensional drafting view that kind of avoids the three-dimensional implications of the other views, the other view types that we have here. Legends, these can be drawn here. Schedules, so if we want a spreadsheet to list products and list wall assemblies and things like that, those can be drawn here. Sheet list, when we want to create a table of contents for our drawing set, we create a sheet list of all the sheets, or sheet index. Creating a new sheet is right here, so later on when we go to make sheets of our drawings and including the title block, that'll be done here. So that's all under view. Manage has really software settings, so we can change settings. If you want to create your own line type, you can do that here, change line weights. Other project information, so you can give it an actual location. This is useful for a lot of things, calculating the sun path, figuring out climate conditions. Those can be done with location. You can position the project with its coordinates so that can be accurate. Later on, kind of the more advanced on the right here, this is Dynamo. So Dynamo is Revit's response to Grasshopper for Rhino. So Dynamo is Revit's response to Grasshopper. So Grasshopper is a plugin for Rhino, and Revit responded by coming up with their own visual coding solution for Revit. That's more advanced. I have a number of plugins here. So I have a Enscape plugin. This is for rendering. So if I had a 3D model, I'd be able to hit start and see the project rendered in Enscape. And then Lumion is a standalone rendering software. So this will let me hit play and synchronize this file, see it live updating in Lumion, which is a standalone separate software. So any plugins or add-ons you add will show up as additional toolbars here. At the top, these are commonly used tools. So if you want to go into 3D view quickly, you can hit that, and just some others. And this is all customizable. Okay, so again, properties and all of these you can click and drag to move. If you have multiple monitors that you want to use, You just have to kind of click and position them. If this is almost bound to happen, sometimes these, let's say this project browser, this accidentally gets closed, you have to bring it back. You'd go to, where is it, View, User Interface, and then just find it. So project browser is unchecked, we're going to check it to bring it back. Okay, so same thing can happen to properties. Just go to View, User Interface, and you'll be able to bring it back this way. Okay, so you can set up the interface, kind of customize it the way you want. With multiple monitors, you can have these fully displayed and have more real estate to work within. So as you know, as you can see, there's floor plans, ceiling plans, elevations, and then as we create more drawing types, so sections, 3D views, those will create new branches in this tree. So they'll create kind of new drawings here, and they'll show up, and you can double click on them, and you'll be taken to that view. Okay, so if we go into elevations, so the first thing that we can do is set our levels. So by default, Revit's setting our first level to 0, our second level to 10 feet, and we can add additional levels by going into Architecture, and now you see that this is now active, so we can add another level if we like. So I'm going to go an additional 10 feet, click on the left, and then when this aligns, click on the right. So if you have multiple levels, you can do this, and you can affect. Notice also that it created a new floor plan. So now we have a level 3 floor plan in our project browser. So when we create walls, we're telling the software not only create a two-dimensional wall, right? In floor plan, we're telling it, I want it to start at this level, and I want it to either end at level 2 or level 3, or somewhere in between, right? A custom height that I set it, right? So when you're creating something, it has 3D implications. So we always have to be thinking three-dimensionally and thinking about the implications on other drawings and other views as we're working. Constantly checking them to make sure that those views are showing up graphically the way we want them to. All right, so here we're seeing the different levels, and we can change these. We can change them by clicking on the height. So if we want to set this at 5 feet, we can change the name here by clicking on it. And then as we model this, our building will show up here, and if we want to bring these closer, we can click on one. There's a little circle here. This will drag all of them at once. So as we make adjustments, these can change. So I can drag these. And the fact that this is blue means that it's live and it's being associated with a floor plan. Okay, so we can change that as well. So I'm just going to get started. We're going to go to level 1 to draw the kind of basic floor plan. Right now, let's set this top elevation, and this is in any elevation. Now I have all 3 levels showing up. So any of these elevation views have the same thing. I can set this top level, let's set that to 15 feet. This will be the top of our roof. And this will be the top of our floor, our plates. So the top of our double top plate will be at 10 feet. Top of our roof will be here. We'll call this top of roof. It's asking, do we want to rename the corresponding views? I'm going to say no. I'm just going to label it here. What that would have done is labeled this, top of roof, which I actually want to rename this roof plan. So I can right click it or click on it twice and type roof plan. And I'm using all caps, and in all of these drawings we're going to use all caps. We'll call this rename, we'll call this first floor plan, or I'll just call it floor plan since it's our only one. And we want it to rename that elevation. I'm going to say no. And we'll call this, well, we won't have a plan at this height, so we won't rename that. So again, going into our first floor plan, or our floor plan, we're going to create the model itself. So we'll start drawing the walls. We'll add a floor, doors, windows, and a roof, just to quickly get started. So I'm gonna draw the walls, so I click on walls under the architecture tab, and when I draw this, there's parameters that it's gonna design with. So by default, it's just gonna draw a wall that's 20 feet tall, and it's gonna be unconnected, meaning it's not gonna snap to any of these levels. But I want this wall to stop at level 2. Okay, so I want this to be dependent on that level 2 that I created that's 10 feet off the ground, so this wall will be 10 feet tall. Right, notice I don't have the ability to change the height here. This is locked in because I'm locking it to level 2. If I said unconnected, I could set this custom to any height that I wanted, but I'm going to set this to level 2 so that this is constrained. So Revit works with constraints. We basically tell it, lock this to this level or lock this to a plane, so that as the plane moves, the geometry moves as well. So we're setting up kind of rules for it to follow. All right, so I'm setting the height to level 2 that we just created. I can go in and start clicking and dragging. You're seeing the dimensions as I'm working. If I click, I can just type 30 feet, enter, and it'll draw a wall that's that length. I can go this way, I can type 25 feet, enter, and it's snapping to those, to whatever direction I started drawing in. So you can see that this is going to align. Actually, that didn't draw straight. So I can continue drawing by just clicking here. Continuing drawing, type 30 feet, and then connect them. And it'll close them automatically. Okay, so again, clicking on this as a BIM software, this wall has information. So I click on it. Under properties, it's going to give me information on this particular type. So in this case, it's a generic 8-inch wall. There's other types of walls I can choose from. We can do a generic 6-inch wall, and again, I click on it, this will all update, and I can change this here to a 6-inch wall. Okay, so I can select all of them. So if you click and drag from the top down, it'll grab things that I've completely enclosed, and I can set this to be 6-inch. If I click and drag from the bottom up, it'll grab things that I'm even touching. Like if I'm just touching it, it'll grab it. Okay, so there's a difference in selecting from the bottom, bottom right up. It'll grab everything that rectangle touches. If I go from the top down, it's only grabbing things that are fully enclosed. Alright, so I've drawn my walls, and if I click on it, it's even giving me properties on the information, how it's built and where it's constrained. So the top constraint, it says up to level 2. So again, this has implications in elevation and 3D. So if I go into 3D view, if I click on this house at the top, you'll see that there's 4 walls. And if I go into my elevations, you'll see that all these walls are stopping at level 2. They're stopping at 10 feet. So if I change the height of this level, if I set this to 12 feet, my walls adjust with it because they're constrained to that elevation. Control Z. So all of this, everything is parametric, meaning I change a parameter, it affects the model, right? Everything is connected, it's all linked. Okay, so you'll see also by clicking on that house, that 3D view, now I have a new branch here. So you'll see that there is a 3D view that I can access by just clicking on it, double clicking it here. Okay, so I can go back to my floor plan by double clicking on that. Continue modeling, I can add doors. Now I can change the type of door here. I can add windows, hit escape a few times to get out of that. Hit window, change the window type, bring that in. Okay, so doors and windows. And if there's a window type that I want to bring in that I don't see showing up here, I can go to Insert, Load Family, and now I can bring in the specific window type that I'm looking for. So I go down to the Windows category at the bottom, and I can find, you know, any type of window. This won't have everything, so you may have to go on specific websites to find the type of window family that you're looking for, or make one yourself. BIMobject.com is a good source for that. Revit City is another good one. Arcat, another good one. So when you find it, you hit open, you specify the size, and we'll go back to architecture window, and you'll be able to find that new window that we just loaded and bring it in. So again, we're seeing this in plan, but this has implications in 3D. So we're seeing all of that three-dimensionally. We're seeing that in elevation. So as we're working, we're constantly updating the other views as well. All right, so we have walls, doors, windows. We need a floor. So this could be a floor slab, could be a structural floor. We're just going to do an architectural floor, very generic. And when we create floors, there's, you know, we can draw them as a line, so we can create any custom shape. You'll see this top bar turn green, and this just means that we're in edit mode. So it's asking for us to create a sketch that we have to complete, and then when we're done with that sketch, we'll hit this green check, and then it's going to finish editing and it'll have it in the model. But while this is green, we can only kind of edit this sketch. Okay, it's a way for Revit to know that we're working on, you know, something, we're kind of controlling what we can work on at any given time. So we can go in and create lines to create any, you know, shape for this floor. We can use this option and actually pick lines that we want to be the boundary of our floor. We can use this one to actually pick walls that'll become the boundaries of the floor. So if you notice, I clicked and it created this pink line. So this pink line is going to be the perimeter of this floor. Okay, so I can, if I don't like it, I can select it, delete it. I can go into this and pick actual lines. So I want this floor slab to extend, you know, to the bottom of our walls. So I'm going to go along the outside and just pick all 4 walls. When we're happy with this pink sketch and we're happy with the properties, it's just going to create a 12-inch floor. So generic, meaning it's not going to have structural information in it. It's just kind of a generic geometry, generic slab. So when we're happy with it, I'm going to hit the green check, and it's going to create a floor slab. So going back into 3D, seeing this floor slab, 3D. And going back to, now we want to go to the roof plan. So we'll quickly do a roof over this. I'm going to go back into roof plan. Notice that we can't see this. We're not seeing far enough down. We're actually elevated above the roof and not seeing anything here. So we can change the view here. So we want to be able to look further down. So we're going to change the view range. So I can go to edit, and this is a diagram showing what this means. So when Revit creates a view, it cuts through something and then it looks in a certain direction. So when it creates a floor plan view, it'll cut in one location and look down. When it creates a reflected ceiling plan, it'll cut at a certain height and look up. So this is a diagram showing what each of these elements refer to. So primary top range, this number 1, that's really the maximum height of an object for it to show up in the drawing. Primary range cut plane, so this is where we're cutting. So in this case, the cut plane is set to 4 feet. So a typical floor plan will cut at 4 feet. It'll look down, right, in this blue kind of region. See 5, notice how 5 is the primary range, so this is the range of view we have. And then view depth is this, and number 6. And then 7 is the view range, so the entire height of this, right? So you'll see all of those things covered here. So view depth, top, cut plane, and bottom. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're setting the height for each of these things. So what this is doing is it's saying the top of this plane is set to 7'6". It's cutting at 4 feet, and its bottom is at 0. So what we want to do is set this to be unlimited. We want this to look as far down as we can. We want this view depth to be unlimited, and cut plane is at 4 feet. Let's see what happens. So this is really all we need. Now that this is unlimited, we're looking down kind of infinitely, and we can see what's happening. We're not seeing the door because that's further down. We're not cutting through it, so it's not visible. But what this lets us do is, now that we're in this roof plan, we can now create our roof. So I can click on roof, and Revit will it allows for a number of different roof types. Again, there's kind of the properties it's going to build with are up here, so we can set an overhang for it. So as we create each side of the roof, we can give it an overhang. So let's give this a 2-foot overhang. And so as I mouse over this, it'll give me a dashed line representing where it's going to overhang. So let's say we want it to overhang here. And also notice this define slope is checked. So that means it's going to have a slope in this direction, indicated by this little triangle. And it's a 9 to 12 slope by default. We can change that in a second. I can mouse over to this side, and this also has a 9 to 12 slope. If I want to create a part of the roof that doesn't have a slope, I uncheck this. So this side and this side will not have any slope. I only want a slope here and here, meaning we'll end up with a gable roof. So there will be a ridge that runs down the middle of this if the slope is here and here. Opposite, right? If I wanted the slope, if I wanted that ridge to run this way, I would create a slope here and a slope here. Okay, so like we said, we want to change this slope. So we can click on it. We can either select it here. Let's bring this down to, we'll say 4 to 12. Click on this, bring this down to 4 to 12. So make it less steep. And then again, it's in terms of the type of roof, we can change that here. I'm just going to use another, let's say a generic 12-inch roof. It's fine. So when we're happy with our sketch, you know, and we can edit this if we want to have a larger overhang on one side. We can do that. We can, you know, go in and modify this if we want to add a portion to the roof. Notice it's giving me a warning because I have overlapping lines. Revit wants a closed loop, essentially, when it creates these roofs and floors and things like that. So in order to join this, let's say I wanted this to be all one thing, I can use this trim extend and trim these so that this is all one profile. So once it finds that this is a closed loop, it'll be able to create this. All right, so that should be good. So I hit the green check. Let's look at this in 3D. So something that I noticed, we created this on our roof plan level. Really, we want this to be at our level 2. So it'll start at the level 2. So I select it. I can change the base level here. We can set this to level 2. And now it brings it down to that height. Okay, so you'll notice that these walls aren't extending all the way to the roof. That's an easy fix. You just click on the roof or click on the wall and say attach top base, and then click on the roof and it'll extend that wall, kind of override its height, and then just kind of snap it to the roof wherever it finds the roof. All right, so I'm going to do that for all 4 sides. Click on these. I'm holding down to toggle in 3D. I hold shift and hold middle mouse button to toggle in 3D. To select multiple objects, I hold shift, or I hold control, and I can select multiple things. So I've selected the remaining 3 walls, and I click attach top base, and I click on my roof, and it extends all of them to the roof. So it overrides the heights that we had given it, and it just finds the roof. To edit this roof, we can click on it. We can say edit footprint. We could edit this in 3D. This would be harder to manipulate, less accurate. Or we can go back into roof plan and modify it from here. Okay, so again, when we're done modifying it, we can, you know, if we wanted to add a slope here, if we added slopes on all sides, it would create a hip roof, but we don't want that. In this case, we want a gable roof. If I wanted a flat roof, I could select these, again, holding control, and I can uncheck define slope, and we end up with a flat roof. Okay, so it really builds ridges based on the slope of which side you're telling it to slope. All right, so that's the basics of this. You know, there's other commands down here. These are other kind of visibility commands. So if we want to turn on a shaded view, we can go to shaded, look at it that way. Going back to hidden line, which is black line on white surface. We can hide certain objects. Let's say I'm working in 3D and I want to hide my roof. I can click on the roof and I can right click and say hide in view elements. So it'll hide just this particular element. And now I can see the interior of my model. And if I want to bring that back, I have to turn this light bulb on, which is reveal hidden elements. And so anything in pink is something that I've hidden. So I can then select it, right click, unhide in view elements, and now it's no longer pink, so I can turn off this light bulb, and now it's back. All right, so there's ways to kind of override views. The sunglasses, this is another one. This will temporarily hide, isolate something. So if I want to just temporarily hide this roof, I select it and then just hit this. I can say hide element, and as long as I'm in this view, as long as my perimeter of this thing is blue, this roof will be hidden. But then as soon as I turn this off, as soon as I hit these sunglasses and say reset, it's going to go back to normal. So two different ways of hiding things temporarily and bringing them back. Okay, if you wanted to turn sun path on, you could do that here. Again, this is why we give it a project location. We can specify the actual location and orientation here. So yeah, and that can be turned off like that. All right, so that's the basics of getting started, kind of the Revit 101